I totally cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. All right, so the link is, let me put it over here. Slides. Here's the link to the slides. We'll just wait another couple of minutes to see if anybody else shows up. And so the slides are not editable. A lot of times I make them so you can insert stuff, but these are just my slides. So it was, we had a few other people who said they were gonna join. Let's just go ahead and get started. I don't want to wait too long and have so much video that no one can see it. And so I'm going to do screen share on that one. Okay, so what we're looking at is Google Apps Script, and I have this intended for you know absolutely nothing. Are you able to talk? Hey, Cody. Glad you could join. The link is in the chat. There we go. So this assumes you know absolutely nothing about coding, and so I just want to get you started. So Google Apps Script for Noobs, and this is what I like code all my stuff in. So you guys have seen that I've done several, I think I've shared some things with you that I've had you try out. There are things that I've coded. So let's, we're going to start by just playing with a few of my things that I've personally coded, so you can check it out. But if I put this in present mode, are you able to, is it full screen?
I believe so. Okay.
So when we look at Google Apps Script, this is the symbol. It's a Google product. It's based on JavaScript. So today I'm just kind of going to get you started. So you have there's little things that you can do, and actually you'll be able to do a lot with just what I show you today. But you really should take at least a short JavaScript tutorial, like go to code.org or Codecademy. Just do the first few lessons. Really, you don't need to know very much. So if this is all of JavaScript, to do Google Apps Script, you only really need to know just this little tiny bit. The more you know about JavaScript, the more fancy you can get. But let's be honest, teachers don't have time to get super fancy, so it's just trying to add on a little bit of functionality. So if you go to alicekeeler.com/scripts, that's where I have all of my scripts. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. alicekeeler.com/scripts. And so I've got a list of all the things that I've coded in the order that I coded them. So let's look at the first one I've ever done, which is alicekeeler.com/roster tab. So if you'll go into a new tab, put the link in the chat also. If you go to alicekeeler.com/roster tab, it's going to prompt you to make a copy. So I coded this. So give me a thumbs up when you've got your copy open. Okay, Cody's in. Jocko, were you able to get it? So I can't hear you. It's okay. You can chat in the chat box, or I can try and read your lips. Do you need help? All right, so we're gonna wait for her to exit and come back. So Cody, while she's gone, I'm gonna show you a trick. I go to Control T, and I go to listofrandomnames.com. I love listofrandomnames.com, and I'm gonna do 50 of them just to be cheeky. And I'm gonna click generate, and then I come down below there, so it says list in the text area, and then I can Control A, select all, Control A, select all, Control C, copy. Then I go back to my roster tab here thing, and I Control V, paste, and now I have 50 names. I use that all the time because I need fake sample data to demonstrate stuff. I love it.
What is the site name again?
Listofrandomnames.com. I put it in the chat box.
Okay. And then,
is that a convenient place to put it, or do you want to put it in like the group chat on Google Plus?
Okay. See, and then I went to 50.
And then you can click generate.
Okay. And then what's the next shortcut?
And then all the way at the bottom of the list, it says view in a text area.
List in a text area, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So click that, and then it turns it into a box so you can highlight all of them. But,
okay.
But if you use Control A, it selects all.
Okay.
And then Control C, copy.
Okay. And then Control V, paste, right?
Control V, paste, exactly.
Okay.
Awesome. Just waiting for her to come back. Although the next one's pretty much, the next one I'm going to do is pretty much the same. So let's go ahead and just try it since it's being recorded. So I'm going to screen share back. And okay, so then what you do is I actually have a menu. Usually I do them as an add-on, but if you go to roster tab, you can run roster tab.
Run roster tab, got it.
It's going to make you authorize it. You're like, yes. Whatever it says, say allow. And so you'll notice is that what it did, it's hard to see, but it made a tab at the bottom for every one of my students on my list. So how I use this is I don't want to open up 150, well, let's just say for each class. I wouldn't do this for all of my students if I had 150 students. I do it per period.
Right.
So, but I wouldn't want to open up 30 student documents necessarily. I try to avoid that. Hashtag things that suck. So if you do it this way, everybody does their work on their own tab. So one of the tricks is you share this in Google Classroom where everyone can edit, or however it is that you distribute documents so that everyone can edit it. And then you click on the little drop-downy arrow.
Okay.
And you have the students go to their tab, and the student chooses Protect Sheet. Don't do it for them. It'll take you forever. So you say find your tab, and then the student chooses Protect Sheet, because what that allows them to do is set permissions. Now for me it says only you, because there's nobody else on this document, but if it was a student it would say only you and the owner. You can't restrict the owner of the document from editing. So they would just do that, and then that would keep any other students from editing their tab.
They can just view?
Yes, they would just be able to view. They could copy and paste, but they can't mess with it.
Right.
So this is really great for when you're just trying to do things like, everybody, let's go to our own tab and brainstorm something. Or everyone let's look up stuff and go find some web resources, just paste them on there. Find examples of irony from the text, and just ways that we could share information, brainstorm, or for things that are form of assessment where like it's not graded anyway, so no point in cheating. But it's a lot easier to go through and give feedback when all they have to do is switch tabs. All right, I'm going to rename this one to delete. Let's see. There we are. All right. So we're going to do the exact same thing, except slightly different. And so the one we're going to do this time is alicekeeler.com/template tab. alicekeeler.com/template tab. And I put the link in the chat. I'm going to make a copy. So, Angelica, what you missed is that I demonstrated roster tab, but roster tab and template tab are almost exactly the same, so you didn't miss anything. This just has like one extra feature. And so I coded these. So what happens is you make a template. So you go to alicekeeler.com/template tab, and you would paste your roster. Whoops, not that one. You would paste your roster of students into column A. So just type in some names. So because your audio is not working, there could be a few reasons. Hover over the center of the screen. You can hear me okay, right? Okay, right. So hover over the center of the screen, and then there's like a wheel for settings. And then it says what your microphone is. So you just want to make sure your microphone is activated. So you're on the Hangout, and you hover over the Hangout, right? Hover over the Hangout, and then there's some icons that show up at the top, and one of them is a settings wheel. And if you click on that, it lets you check your headphones. She's screen sharing. Okay, good. So it says built-in microphone, but it's not. Yeah, click on that. See what happens on the built-in microphone. Try default, and what won't hurt. And are you on a PC or a Mac? Oh, you pushed cancel. Okay. I can't tell if you're on a Mac. Okay, good. So go to the Apple at the top left and go to System Preferences. I think you're only sharing your browser and not your whole screen. And then when you're in System Preferences, it says Sound. And see if the Input tab is working. Yeah, Sound. Third one, Input. Yeah. Okay, it looks like it's picking up your sound. I've seen this happen, and I've had it happen to me, and sometimes you just can't make it work. So, I don't know. Do you want to try closing out of Google altogether, and then Chrome, like close out of Chrome and try it again? Or just use the chat box. Make it work. Okay. We'll just wait for, sorry, Cody.
Sounds good. Right.
See my Raspberry Pi box? There's a problem though.
Did you make that at the 3D model?
It is 3D printed. I did not 3D print it though. My buddy did.
Okay.
He made it for me. He actually printed it with 2 different printers. So I think he printed this bottom with the Polar 3D, which is the printer that I have. For some reason, my printer is not working right now, and I got to troubleshoot why. Owning a 3D printer is a really good critical thinking tool, because there's always something that's not working, or you got to unclog it, or you got to you got to troubleshoot.
Right.
And he has a higher quality printer, that you pay more money for. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I don't have any complaints about my printer. Here's a donut that I printed. And then my printer's been messing up. It's not calibrated right, so you can see how the bottom's all jacked up. But I printed this box, and the rest of it printed great. It was just, for some reason, it was just like, I need to fix the calibration so it starts close to the print bed. It's a little tiny bit too high, and so then it's like drizzling onto there on that first layer. Kind of funny. But you can see how much more dense the print quality is on this top piece. Okay. So someone was telling me that their school has a $20,000 printer. Mine's a $600 printer. So, don't expect a $20,000 print from a $600 printer. But
I'll just go buy one of those tomorrow.
Really, it depends on what you're doing it for. So the guy who told me his school has a $20,000 printer, they do project-based learning. And so they have the kids, get this, build a pinball machine.
Build a pinball?
Pinball machine, like a full-size pinball machine. So they design it, they print it, they build a pinball machine.
I'd have it like anxiety being around like the 3D maker since it's like $20,000. It's like a car. So
the question is whether or not they let the kids touch it. Apparently, they also have this super expensive, ginormous vinyl cutter, which basically means it makes stickers. But it's in a room that nobody's allowed to go into. So there's a possibility that the kids design the print, but the librarian or whoever, the tech guy, whoever's in charge of the printer might, get anal about it and not let kids touch it, which I'm super not into. If you're worried about kids touching it, don't buy a $20,000 printer because it's about the kids. That's why we're there. The kids should be making things and they should be don't do it for them. And so I printed a bunch of them for you guys, which I would rather not, but it's just logistics. See, so my printer that I have at my house, it's cloud-based, so you'd be able to print from your house or from your phone to my printer. Wow. So if the school had that one, so the Ultimakers at school are $2,000 printers, and they're really nice. They make a really nice print, but you got to sit next to it.
Where's the $20,000 printer?
Sydney, Australia.
Oh, Sydney. Okay.
It's a private school. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
There we go. All right, giving it a go.
Hi.
Yes!
Yay!
Okay, so I'll put the link back. Whoops, not that one. Dang it. Although you can now use that to copy and paste student names. Okay, it is keeler.com/template tab. So these are available for you for free anytime. These are some of my favorite things to use. So when I was doing like more face-to-face class, I would use this stuff. Like I'll show you my discussion tab one next. I love that one. I'd use them all the time, but I've switched to I talk too much. I know that I talk too much. So I now when I teach, I don't try to talk to the whole group. I try not even make announcements ever. I just go to each small group and I'll make the same announcement 5 times because students should be actively working the whole time and I should not hold them hostage. Like Cody, you were kind of held hostage while we were waiting for Angelica. I still have for you on that. But
it's all good. We were talking about
Okay. Okay. So were you able to get the template?
Yes, I have a copy of it right now.
Did you put some student names in? I mean, 5 is good enough. You don't need 50 of them.
Are you guys working on the same copy?
No.
No?
You want to work on my copy?
So just put random names in the...
Yeah, just put random names. Like I copied these off of a website. So just type Alice, Nancy, Paul, John. Just type like 5 names. You don't need a big list to see what this does. So this first tab, you copy and paste your student names. And on that second tab, you see where it says put template here?
Yes.
This is where you create a graphic organizer. So I don't know if you did any my other workshops where we froze the top row. That's a really important skill. You guys know how to do that? So I like to do that one. and I'll make it wider. So I might do something like website URL. So they would paste that in there, right? And then website title. Is this credible? Why or why not? Information 1, information 2. So what this spreadsheet does, is it makes a tab for every single student. So you can just think about anything where you have students write stuff down or brainstorm or create story ideas or, you know, anything that you would have a graphic organizer for, you can basically build it in a spreadsheet. I mean, it's just a bunch of boxes for them to fill out, right? You can even make it into a worksheet if you really wanted to. Just remember, no kid gets excited about that. But, you know, so you just design it however you want it to look. I'm going to make it look a little fancier just so that it pops. So I'm going to use the paint can, and I like to change the font to white. Oops, font to white. And I like to make the font bigger. And I click on the awesome box, and I set the word wrapping. So however, I mean, just build it however you want to. So just do something so it looks different. My husband does this thing with the students called parts of speech. So what he might do is like merge in the center a bunch of cells so it's one. And then he sticks a picture in there. Insert, and then she teaches English. Search cat roadkill. Okay, I'll do that one. That's disgusting. Right? So you stick a picture in the middle of this, and then your graphic organizer, you're like, write 3 adjectives. And then 3 nouns. So then the students, they look at the picture every day, and then they have to write, it's called the parts of speech. So he's got all these different, like, identify a noun, an adjective, something that starts with a P, like a bunch of stuff, Englishy words. I need to get a sample of this from him. And so then they practice all their parts of speech every day as their warm-up. So you could just have everybody do their warm-up in one spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So once you've designed your graphic organizer, does your spreadsheet not look blank? Right? Then you go to the template tab menu at the top, and I made that. And you click Run Template tab. Continue. You got to authorize it.
Template.
Oh. And so it should make a copy of the template for every student, and it's all in the same spreadsheet. That's like the greatest thing ever, in my opinion.
And so you can like make changes to the template, and it'll make the changes for the other tabs.
Nope. Be ready. Be ready. Like the Xerox machine. You made your photocopies. Now live with it. So then you share this. Now I share it through Google Classroom. When you share in Google Classroom, you have 3 options. I can attach as View. I can attach as Collaborate, which is the middle option. It says Edit. And I can attach as every student gets a copy. So you guys know I use that middle one, Collaborate, all the time. So I like to attach the same spreadsheet and have everybody contribute to the same spreadsheet. So this way, I don't have to open up a bunch of documents. I have everybody do their warm-up on one spreadsheet. It's like it's still making my tabs because I had 50 of them like a doofus. So you notice as I click along the bottom, I've got all the student names along the bottom, and if I click on anybody's tab, they all look the same because I made a copy of that graphic organizer. I'm going to rename delete. Okay, so you ready to freak out? Did you get it to work? So did you get it to work?
I'm sorry? Yeah, it worked.
They all look the same. So
Yeah, but you'd share it with students where every student edits their own tab. And the other thing you want to do is when students get to their tab, they click on their tab and they choose Protect Sheet. Come here. It's still making tabs, so it's getting like mad at me that I'm trying to do stuff. Yep. That's what happens when I run 50 of them. Good for me.
Yeah, so it has like a description. It says enter description, and there's a range. Do you have to set permissions for? Do they have to?
Wait a minute. Let me see your screen. What are you looking at?
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Oh, on the sidebar?
Mhm.
Yeah, for set permissions, I don't do anything. They can name it. You can give it a named range. I don't bother. So I'll show you. So I go on there and I click protect sheet. Each student would do this individually.
Okay.
And I say set permissions. I just set it. And then I do this one, restrict who can edit. And I say only me and the author. Or the owner. So now that one's locked. That means only Sierra and the owner can do that one. But that assumes that Sierra did it. You cannot lock the owner out of editing their own spreadsheet. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's where it gets scary, and I don't want you to like freak out. I'm gonna show you the code. Just look at it with me, but don't. Okay. All right. So go to the tools menu, and you see it says script editor. And so it's gonna open another tab. And so on any of my scripts, you go to the tools menu and you hit script editor, and it's gonna show you the code. Do you see how little code this is?
Mm-hmm.
It's really, and mostly I have like spaces and stuff. This really isn't that much. Do you see up here at the very top? Zoom in. It says function on open, and you see where it says create menu.
Where?
So the very first function. So I have several functions.
Oh, okay.
Some of them, the very first function says on open. When you open the spreadsheet, it makes the menu. And by menu, it's this thing right here where it says template tab. I coded that menu. And here's the code. You know how many times I've typed this code? 0 times. I've typed that code 0 times. I went to the internet and I copy and pasted it. I'm like, I want to make a menu. So I looked it up, I Google searched it, and I copy and pasted that code in there, and then I just edited it a little bit. See how it says here, create menu template tab. So you notice that's what it says up here on the spreadsheet menu.
Mm-hmm.
So I just edited it, and then it says add the item. It says run template tab. So when you come up here, you notice it says run template tab. And then the second one, this template tabs, is saying to run this function. You see the function below it?
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to edit those 3 things. And I copy and pasted the rest of it. Like I didn't even mess with it. I just copy and pasted it. So don't freak out looking at the code itself, because obviously you don't know how to do it yet. But I just want you to see, like, it's readable. So the first thing it says is spreadsheet app, get active spreadsheet. Do you know what that does?
Mm-mm.
Right? You know, like get sheets. Oh, give me all the sheets in the spreadsheet, right? Data range, get all the data, get the values. So what's really cool about this is that the codes say what they do. They're actually called methods. The methods say what they do. So it's really simple. I don't want you to freak out though. So let's close that. Let's look at just one more, since there's only 3 of us. HTTP, I love this one. I love this one like a lot. Discussion tab. For alicekilo.com/discussion tab. Make a copy. And this is basically the same thing again. Just so that we're clear, I like to make tabs in a spreadsheet, so I code that a lot. So instead of names, if you wanted to structure a discussion with students, because research shows it's your quiet students who have the most thoughtful answer, but it's your loudmouth students who will answer first and shut everybody down. Mm-hmm. So you should always ask people to answer digitally first, just at first. And then you can have an actual live discussion with your students. I'm not suggesting you should go straight digital for everything, but let's say we're going to have a discussion about student-centered learning, right? What is student-centered? What are things that violate student-centered classrooms? What is one change you can make to allow for student voice. How can you arrange your furniture? Right, so you just write your discussion questions. So then just write a list of discussion questions. And you can just make them up about the chupacabra or whatever. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my husband's on a flight to Canada, and he just landed in San Francisco, so I was answering some questions for him. I'm sorry. Okay, so then notice the second tab says put template here. Ignore that, because I already made the template, but if you wanted to like tweak it a little bit, you could, but I got it all set up for you. Okay? So go up to the menu at the top and choose Run Discussion tab.
Run discussion tab. Got it.
So what I did is I took template tab and I just tweaked it a little bit.
Okay. Continue. Allow. Okay.
All right, so you'll notice what it did is it put all the questions on the tabs at the bottom, but they're so long. So first of all, if you're going to ask like a paragraph, don't type a paragraph, because what it'll do is it makes that the whole tab name. So what you might want to do is just type something short to create all the tabs, and then edit what goes in the yellow box. In a student-centered classroom, we are looking for what characteristics? Like if my question's like that, I might just type student characteristics, I don't know, to make the tabs. So what I usually do is I'll write the whole question, and then I'm like, okay, that's too long, so I just change that to violate, and then I make this one. So you just say double click on the tab, student voice. So even though it makes the question into the tab, if it's too long, I just make it something short. Like I just make it furniture. So you may want to just initially just make them short. Something, like just the word violate, and then type the whole question into the yellow box. Now when you share this with students, so watch, I'm going to share this with you guys. I'm going to get a shareable link, and I'm going to make it anyone can edit. And then, okay, Cody, is that you?
Yep.
Okay, is that you? I just shared this with you, and then I'll just get the link and put it in the chat so it's fast. So if you guys are able to get in there, you in the doc? Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, Angelica, can you edit my question?
On the tab or in the top?
You can definitely edit the tab, but I don't want you to. Just the question.
You were trying to edit a protected cell.
Yeah, see, I protected the range on that. So, like, if I type something, what are things that violate student? Teacher talking too much. One choice. Notice that you could, like, type on top of my answer. So if you, like, right-click and you choose protect range, set permissions, and I go instead to custom only me, I've now locked all of you out of, so you can't edit my answer.
Okay.
So that's something I like to show students is when we're in a collaborative doc, or a collaborative spreadsheet, you can't do it in a doc, is how to protect the sheet and how to protect their particular answers. Honestly, it's not usually a problem. But some students like to be able to lock theirs down, right? So it's just kind of a tip. So I coded that it makes a tab for every question, that it makes a copy of the template, and that it locks or protects the question so that students can't mess with my question because they always accidentally type over my question. I don't think anyone's being a punk. It just happens. So I can find that by going Tools, Script Editor. So I highly encourage you to take my templates and just edit them. Like, that's nice. I'm going to add one feature. I'm just going to tweak this. Instead of it saying Discussion tab, I'm going to have it read Cody is the best. See if that'll change it. I have to refresh. Doing it. Yep. Do you see that, Cody?
Yeah, where?
It now says Cody is the best.
Okay, got it.
I had to refresh. But so I just went in and edited the code. So I really encourage you to like start there. Is where you go to my website and you're like, look at all this cool stuff Keeler coded. And that you would just edit what I already made. So you just make some small tweaks and like play with it. And steal. Like how did Keeler make that menu? Just copy and paste it into your own code. All right. Back to my presentation. We looked at roster tab. So here are like the essentials that you need to know about JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
Is number one, you need to know what a function is. So is it full screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. So a function is just like, this is my set of code, and you might have multiple functions because you have multiple steps. So you might have one that, like remember I had a function to make the menu, and I had a different function that did all the tabs?
Okay.
Okay, right? So it's function, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. If you learn some JavaScript, what you'll know is that you can put some parameters inside of those parentheses. I just never do. So you're like, yep, no parameters. So if you're doing like, if you're coding math, you might like put the parameters of the X and the Y value. But I don't do that. And then it's an open curly brace and a closed curly brace. You want to memorize that. Easy to memorize. Okay, number two. You want to define variables. You remember when you were in algebra, you said x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right?
Yeah.
So everywhere you see x, you could replace it with negative b plus or minus the square root, right? Is the variable represents that value. So we do that in coding. It's like, okay, I have this big long piece of code or a short piece of code, and I only want to write it once. So you name it so that you can just write down the name instead of having to write the code over and over again. So you type VAR and then whatever name that you want to name it, chupacabra, whatever, equals, and then your code, and then you can just reuse your code. Easy. You need to know about semicolons. At the end of every line of code, you have to have a semicolon. And when your code doesn't run, it's probably because you missed a semicolon. And so then you just start looking down the edge, the right-hand side of your code, and you're like, semicolons. You just check for your semicolons. And then I like to insert comments. So if you put 2 lines, it means not code, not code. No. So they can write a little note explaining what you're doing. Because when you go back to look at it, you will appreciate that there's notes. And if anybody else goes to look at your code, you'll appreciate that there's notes. Okay, so if you know those 4 things, you can do a lot. Now, if you know a little more JavaScript, you can do more. But just right there, you can get going, right? So what I do, there's the developers Google website. I never, ever go to that link. What I do, I Control-T, I just type in Google App Script. And then I type in what I'm looking for. So say I want to insert a sheet into a spreadsheet, right? So I type insert sheet. So I just use Google. I'm like, well, what I want to do, so I type Google App Script, and then what it is I want to do, and usually I can go find some code that I can steal. So I'm just going to click here. Like it's developers Google, like this is the official web page. And then you can like read this list. Okay, can you guys see these?
Yeah.
So if I don't know what it is, I ignore it. Like activate, I don't know what that means. So forget it. I ignore that one. Append row, like add extra rows to the spreadsheet. I know what that does. Right? Clear, copy, delete a column. Okay, I know what that does. Get the active cell. If you don't know what it is, just ignore it. Get the frozen rows. Get the last row. I use that one a lot. Get the last row because I want to see how much stuff I've typed without. I'm not going to count it myself. That's silly. So what I encourage you to do is just kind of, when you go in to use something, is read other stuff just so you kind of know what you can do. You're like, oh, I can get the tab color, or I can hide the sheet. So I just want you to see how readable it is. All right. And so we're going to do our first code. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you, I want you to watch me. I'm going to walk through all the steps of the code, and then we're going to do it together. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is one line of code. It's Gmail app. Now, usually when I show this, people are like, this is stupid. Why would I do that? I can just send an email. That's true. But it doesn't feel as satisfying to send an email as it does to code it yourself. You're like, I coded that! That feels cool. But also, whenever you code something, don't you usually want to, the next thing is to send it out?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing this one line of code by itself is dumb, I agree. But if you use it, like I coded other things and then I email out what I coded, then it's super useful. For example, you guys got the emails of the feedback from the peer evaluation?
Right.
So here's what I literally did. As I had the list of everybody's comments, I did this. I went into the tools, script editor, I typed this much code, like hardly any, and I said, I'd get the range, like get the cells, the columns that have the comments in it, and stick them into an email. And I coded where it emailed all the comments out to you guys. So it took me probably 20 minutes to code the mail merge.
Mm-hmm.
But how long did it take me to send out all those emails? How many emails did you get?
A lot. Well, I mean, one
I know that's nice about Gmail. It puts it together into a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you should have gotten like one per, group, right? Or one per person.
Yeah.
You should have gotten like 20, 30 of them in theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And then I had it send out to the entire group. If I had to do that by hand, right? Seriously, it took me 20 minutes to like, here's all the comments. And look how fast I was able to send you feedback. And it was like, I don't know, 10 lines of code. It's not even that hard. It's so easy to do a mail merge. So that Gmail coding is awesome. Okay, so now that I've told you that it's important, we're going to do it. So the first thing that we do is we go to script.google.com. So I'm able to build my code in the document. Remember how we saw that when we went to the tool script editor? Or I can build it in its own script doc. Like it's just script by itself, standalone. So we're going to do a standalone. And then we're going to write a function. You always have to write a function. So we're going to type the word function, spacebar, and then you name your function. And you can name it anything you want. We're going to call it email this. Now notice the capital T. You don't have to do that. But just in JavaScript in general, when you smash words together, you capitalize the first letter of the second word. So it's just more like when you go to church, you wear a dress, not because you have to, but just because people do. And then you have open and closed parentheses, and then you have an open curly brace and a closed curly brace, and your code goes in between the curly braces, okay? It's very important that you realize that capitalization matters. If your code's not working, check your capitalization. So we're going to define a variable. So we type VAR, and we're going to send email. So what makes sense is I use mail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first line of code you always do is, this is Google Apps Script. So you have to say, what app am I coding? Am I coding spreadsheets? Spreadsheet app. Am I coding forms? Form app. Am I coding maps? Map app. Am I coding Google Drive? Drive app. In this case, I'm coding Gmail. So I do Gmail app. And you'll notice this violates the rules of JavaScript because the G is capitalized. Normally you would always start at lowercase, but it's a product name, so they capitalized it. So we type Gmail app. Now here's what's really cool about Google Apps Script is it's multiple choice. So I just put a period after that and it gives me like multiple choice options. And so we're going to stack it with a period. So I put a period and then I'm going to choose send email. And it's going to give me a little template here where I'm going to put who's the email going to, what's the subject line, and what's the body, and then I have a semicolon. Okay, you ready? That's the whole code. It's one line of code. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so control. Are you both on a Mac?
Mhm.
I'm not on a Mac. I'm on a PC.
Okay. Angelica, when I say control, I mean command.
Okay.
I'm on a Mac also, but whatever. So control T, new tab, script.google.com. I'm going to put it into the chat for you. Oops, it helps if I have the HTTP. So it should look like this. You might have to hit start scripting. Mine goes straight to there because it's like, yeah, you know what you're doing. Once it gets to know you, it skips that splash page.
Start scripting?
Yeah. Start scripting. So, you guys looking where it says function, my function?
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to control A, select all, and then hit delete. Because we're going to do this from scratch. Okay? So this is the way we start, like every single one of them. You type the word function in all lowercase, it should turn purple.
Function?
Because we're gonna make our function.
Okay.
Okay? And then we're going to type, what are we going to name this function? And I'm going to call it email this. So I take and I smash the words together. And then open parenthesis, close parenthesis, because I have no parameters, like no special inputs. And then I do open curly brace, enter, 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 close curly brace.
Oh. Enter, enter, enter. Got it.
Good?
Mhm.
Okay, so you need to put the cursor in the middle of the curly braces. And so what we always do is we start off with VAR. So what's good about this is there's a few things you just do every single time. And then so I say to myself, what app am I using? So since I'm using Gmail app, I'm going to use mail for my variable name because it makes sense. Equals Gmail app. The G has to be capitalized and the A has to be capitalized. And then you put a period and it should give you a multiple choice list.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so let's just read some of these because even though I know what I'm looking for, I just want to know what I can do. Like, okay, well, what could I do? And I don't know what get alias means, so ignore that. Get my inbox threads, get messages, get my spam threads. You see, you can like make some really custom filters. I never do any of those because I don't really actually know hardly anything. So I just come down here to send email, and I click on it. And as much as you can, click on it instead of typing it because spelling matters big time, and capitalization.
So it's the first send email?
That's the first one. The second send email gives you a fourth option of attachments. I have no idea how to do that, so let's ignore that one.
Okay.
So let me be clear. I learned how to code. Here's what happened. This is the story. My best friend invented Google Sheets. Like, he's the co-founder of Docs and Drive, and he's in charge of Google Apps for education and Google Forms and all that kind of stuff, Google Classroom. And so we're chatting, and then he's like really slow to respond, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm coding. I'm like, what are you coding in? He's like, I'm doing JavaScript. I'm like, done. I'm gonna do it. So he was, if you go to, I'll put the thing here. This is what he was making.
Is he on Twitter?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I'll give you that too. You're probably already following him because I told you to a long time ago. So if you go to bit.ly/educhatcalendar, it's a list of all the educational chats. I'm positive I've directed you to this before. That's what he was coding. He coded in Google Apps Script. So it's a Google website where it embeds Google Calendar, and you can code sites and calendar with Google Apps Script. So I did the Codecademy. This was a year ago Christmas, so I've been doing this for a year and a half. So I did for 1 week. I just did like the first tutorial set in JavaScript on Codecademy. So then I was about to get on a plane, and I had 1 hour until my plane got off. And so I was like, okay, well I know I want to do app script, so I'm just gonna look and like see what it is. And I'm like reading it, and I'm like, okay, this is like super easy. So I made that roster tab where it makes a tab for every student's name. In an hour, I made it and I blogged it. Like. Do this. Now, to be fair, I have a math degree, and I took a computer science class when I was in college, and at the end of the computer science class, the teacher said, Alice, you need to change your major to computer science. And I'm like, I graduate this week, so no. And I'm really good with spreadsheets, so I'm not going to say that, you would pick it up quite as quickly as I would, but it's pretty easy. Okay, so I'm coming back here.
I want to be a Jedi of Google Sheets.
Okay, so do you guys see this? Do you guys remember what's really important that I have at the end of every line of code?
The semicolon.
Do that now. You will forget. Put the semicolon in there.
Semicolon? Okay.
Yeah. And so then, you see where it says recipient? You have to put it in single quotations. So I'm going to do single quotation and my email address. Put your email address. Single quotation. And notice the comma is outside of that. So all text strings, if it's not code, if it's your stuff, got to be in a single quotation. All text strings have to be in quotations. Now this is dumb. I would normally never type an email address into my code. I would say which cell of the spreadsheet has the email address so I could send out 100 emails. That's what I would really use it for. And then if you go to subject, you got to do it in single quotations. Type, I am a code ninja, end quote. Notice the comma is outside of the quotation. And then the body, put, I coded, so I am a coder. Do not take that away from me, exclamation mark. You can type whatever you want. It has to be in single quotations. Okay, did you get did you get it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is gonna be tricky because you got to be precise. So hit the save disk, and then name it whatever you want. Email, script. And I'm gonna put delete in there because I make like a lot of these. You have to save it. You can use Control S also. Did you save it?
Control S.
And it should say, you see in the toolbar where it says email this, it should say your function name in there.
It says mine says missing before function parameters, line 1 file code.
All right, screen share.
Okay.
There's the advantage to there only being 3 of us.
Screen share, entire screen.
So you're going to be like a super ninja by the end of this class. Oh, wait, this is the end of this class. Okay, email this, function, email this equals, parentheses, parentheses, mail, gmail, dot send email, parentheses, before function, line 1, function, email. Can you do command plus or control plus, because that'll zoom in.
Okay.
There's no equal sign.
After.
Yeah, the parentheses in front of the parentheses. Yeah, get rid of that. So it's just like your function name and then the parameters immediately.
Okay.
Okay, hit save. Control S.
Boom.
You see now it says email this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do is like you're in YouTube, the play button, the run button, but it looks like the YouTube play button. So click run. And if you did it right, it should send you an email. You got to authorize it. I just got an email notification.
Got one.
Me too.
Doesn't that feel good?
Yeah, it makes you feel happy.
Okay, so I know that sounds really stupid, but now let me show you. Let's edit this a little bit. And I have a cheat sheet for you at the end.
Okay.
Let's edit this a little bit, so watch how we can like kick this up a notch. Because let's get crazy. Because why not, right? So what I want you to do is above the VAR, put FOR. Just watch me and then you do it. I'm gonna do a for loop. So a for loop says do this like a bunch of times so long as this is true. So I do for, and then I'm going to define a variable var I equals 0. So in JavaScript we usually start counting at 0. So I have a variable I, semicolon, and I'll tell you what, I always mess this up. I feel like it should have a comma, and I put commas, and then my code won't work. My code won't work. And then I'm like, I need a semicolon. Okay, so I want to running this so long as I is less than 10. Okay, I'm not sure which one. It's in dog. Okay, I muted you both, but please unmute yourselves at any time. Don't leave it muted. So I do I is less than 10. So if I is less than 10, it's gonna run the code. Then I do semicolon I plus plus. And that means that after every time it runs the code, it's going to add 1 to I. And then I do end parenthesis, and then I need a open curly brace around the code that I'm going to repeat, and a closed curly brace at the end of the code that I'm going to repeat. Do you see where I put it? I'm going to type this into the chat. You see I made this for loop and it goes around my code. I'm like showing you my hands like you can see them. Okay, so I typed it into the chat. So the good news is it's exactly like that every time. So if you really look at this for loop, for parentheses, var, I equals 0, semicolon, I less than whatever number you want, semicolon, I plus plus, parenthesis, and then curly braces. How hard is that to memorize? I'm sorry, let me rephrase this. How hard is that to copy and paste? Because mostly I just copy and paste all my code. I'm like, oh, can you use this other code?
Okay, so once that's in front of the var or the var, then we're okay.
Yeah, so then you have the curly braces that flank code. So my buddy, who I told you about, is watching right now, and he's telling me that my code sucks. You know what I have to say about that? It works. So I got a great story on this one. I was coding this template that makes rubrics. I should show you guys that one. And I was just talking like, okay, so I should have done this in a for loop like I just showed you. I go, but I just copy and pasted it, you know, like 10 times, which I shouldn't do that. I'm like, you're gonna laugh at me. He's like, Alice, I would never laugh at you. I know how hard it is to code. And then I show him my code and he starts laughing. It's just messed up. I'm like, you know what? It works, so bite me. Trying to see if he's gonna text me on that. Okay. Did you get it to work? Were you able to save it? Why is it? What is it going in? Why is it doing that? Okay, whatever. You got it? And then when you hit run, you know what it's gonna do. But she was running a flight feeder. You know what it's gonna do?
Am I gonna get 10 emails?
Yep.
That's cool. Not really though, because now I have to delete them all.
All right, well, let's kick this up a notch. Okay, so my buddy is yelling at me, telling me I'm not doing the spacing correctly, which I do want you to notice that it's working, so whatever. So he wants me to tell you that it looks nicer if you put a space after the semicolon. So feel free to choose if you would like to do that. He's sending me texts yelling this at me at what it looks like. Yes, I get that. Okay, he says, not looks nicer. It works, dude. Whatever.
So if we wanted to send, like, let's say we wanted to send this email to, like, 5 different people, would we just separate the emails with a comma on the recipients?
Yes, I think so, because that's what I did. Do you remember when we did the, when you guys filled out the spreadsheet for me? So you had, like, mrskeeler@gmail.com, comma, the Alice Keeler @gmail.com, comma, a Keeler@mail.fresnostate.edu. It's like you guys had it, I had it set into a spreadsheet just like this. Like when you fill out the Google form, you saw how it had the comments. That's what I had. And so I said, go get me the value in D6. And it would use that as the, it plopped that in there. So it might work with a comma. You can try it, but try this one instead. Is where it says I'm a code ninja. Outside of the quotation, put plus quotation spacebar quotation plus I. Now what I'm doing there is I'm intentionally coding my own spacebar. So this plus is concatenate. It says, okay, I have this text string. I'm a code ninja. Plus put a spacebar. Plus whatever the value of I is. And so then run it. And now you'll get 10 separate emails. They will not be in the same conversation because it's going to put in here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So do you see how I joined a variable? The variable is blue with text. Do you have to code the spacebar separately?
Oh, wow.
So what I usually do is I just put spacebar and then quotation so that the spacebar is built in. Like you gotta have your own spaces. But sometimes, like, I mean, like all the time you forget to do that. Like, is it natural for you to put a space at the end of your sentence? So sometimes you just do quotation, spacebar, plus quotation, spacebar, quotation. You just manually put in the spacebar so you know you have them. That's up to you. It's style. So did it work?
Yeah.
Now, if you're really feeling evil, instead of putting your email address, you put your enemy's email address.
I'm going to do that.
And you send them a bunch of email.
I'm gonna do it to Anna Lilia.
Do it. You can totally do it. What would I add a period after? Okay, so my Betty would like to know how you add a period after the value of I. So I'd put plus, like, so like and, you use plus, so like I want the value of I plus, quotation, period, quotation. He's just baiting me because I know he knows how to do that. Oh, he wants me to ask them that, you guys. I can't see there's, why am I yelling at my phone? Okay. Seriously talking to my phone like you can hear me text him. Okay, did you guys get that? You ready to do the next one? We're going to kick it up a notch and do 2 lines of code.
Okay, so I'm still on first.
It's okay. Did the other one work for you?
The other one worked.
Did you have any questions?
Yeah, I just sent it to Anna Lilia.
If for no other reason, I've now taught you how to do practical jokes. Okay. So, and then you guys, you should keep a copy of these slides so you can go back and redo the code. And like, you know, if you don't practice, it's dead.
Right.
Okay, now I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna walk you through. I'm gonna walk you through the code, and then we're gonna do it. Are you watching?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is 2 lines of code. So we're gonna again do it in the script.google.com.
You're not screen sharing.
Ah! Okay, here we go. Better? Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so again, we're going to do it in its own script instead of in the document. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of any Google Doc. You can do it at the slides or anything you got open. We're going to make a copy of that document, that Google Doc. So we have to get the file ID. We're going to get the file ID, so you got to find this wacky string of numbers up at the top. And then this is the function, right? So we always start our code with function, space, then we name it whatever we want. In this case, I'm going to call it copydoc. And then I have these parentheses for my parameters, which I don't have any, so I'm just like blank parameters. And then open curly brace, close curly brace. So I write my function. And then I always like, what app am I using? So in this case, we're using Google Drive. So we're using Drive apps, so I named my variable Drive because that made sense to me. And then I'm going to put a period. Right? It stacks together. And so when you read that list, you're like, I want to get this file. So you get this file by ID. So you guys see which one we're going to use? Get file by ID.
Yeah.
And it has a semicolon at the end. Okay, and so then that's my first line of code. My second line of code is when you make a variable, a lot of times you'll use the variable. So I just made the variable Drive, so then I typed the variable Drive. And then if you put a period, you should be able to get multiple choice. And we're going to say we're going to make a copy of the document. And then we're going to run it. Ready? Okay. So Control-T, new tab. And you're going to go to script.google.com.
Okay.
Cody, do you know what we're trying to achieve with this code? We're making a copy of a document.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to Control-A, select all, and I'm going to delete it because I'm going to do it from scratch. So I always type function, space, and then what are we going to name this? I forgot already. I'm going to name it copy doc. And then open parenthesis, close parenthesis, have no parameters. Open curly brace, enter, 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 close curly brace.
Do I have to space after the parameter?
No.
No, okay.
I don't have a space after the parameters. Okay, good?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to put the cursor in the middle. And I always start it with VAR. And I say, what app am I using? You can cheat. So what we're doing is we're making a copy out of Google Drive.
So we'd have to name it, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to name it. So I'm going to name it Drive. Spacebar equals spacebar. You don't actually need the spaces, but I get yelled at if I don't. And then it's Drive app with a capital D. So my first line is I always name my line of code. Dot. And then like, look at this multiple choice. Yes. So I like create a file. I use that one sometimes. Like I just want to create a file or add a folder. I do that. But what I want to do is get file by ID. I feel like I skipped a slide when I was going through those. Whatever. We'll just build it.
Get file by ID?
Yeah, we're going to get file by ID. Before I go do anything, though, what do I really need right now?
The ID for the file.
I do need that. Before I go get that, what should I do right now?
Semicolon.
Semicolon. I'm going to put a semicolon on there. So I'm going to replace this ID with an actual ID of a document. Do you have a Google Doc open? Any Google Doc open? Like maybe my slides?
Yeah, I have your slides.
Okay. So if you'll look in, if you open any Google Doc, it's always like docs.google.com/presentation/ or it might say /document or /spreadsheet. If you can read it, you don't want it. And then you say like, see it says /D. I don't want that either. I want this string of weirdo numbers, letters, underscores that are in between two slashes. I can't make that bigger. Are you able to find it in the document?
I got it.
Okay, see, like if I go over to this spreadsheet, it says docs.google.com/spreadsheet/d/ and then it's got some weirdo string of stuff.
Uh-huh.
I want to be in between those slashes. So copy that.
Got it.
And then where it says ID, we're going to, like, I don't want that. I have to replace it with that ID, but it has to be in
The single quote.
single quotes.
Oh. No.
Oh, no, okay. Okay, so in the row below, so that's one line of code. And the next line of code, if I type drive, do you notice it turns blue?
Uh-huh.
Because that's, I defined the variable, and now I'm going to use the variable. So I'm going to type the variable that I just defined, and I put a period, and it's going to give me a whole bunch of multiple choice. And I want to copy this document. So I went and got the document, now I'm going to copy it. So I can add editors, and I can get the date that the document was created, and I can get the URL. I like to read this list. I can figure out who the owners of the document are. I want to make copy. I'm just going to do the first one. And then what do I need at the end?
Semicolon.
Semicolon. Don't forget that. Okay. Now, this is optional. If you would like to, you can name it in the parentheses here where it says make copy. El Chupacabra. This has to be in the text string. It's got to be in single quotations. So I got the file, and then I made a copy of the file. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So save it.
Oh, dang it. I forgot to put the semicolon.
Exactly. Now, when you press run, it should show up in your Google Drive. So if I go to drive.google.com and I go to recent, right, I go to Google Drive and I click on recent, I should have El Chupacabra there. Where's my Chupacabra? Didn't I call it El Chupacabra? Oh, I didn't authorize it. Helps if I always forget that. Authorize it, and then El Chupacabra is going to show up in my recent. Do it. Go.
Yep. Popped up.
Oh, mine's going to come. Thinking about it. Yes! El Chupacabra. All right, now let's kick this up a notch. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's make 10 copies of it. So I got to do the for loop. Where should I put it?
In the file.
Where?
The middle.
Yeah, if the middle means there, after the first line but before the second line. I'm going to make it my new second line of code. Because I've got the file. Once I've got the file, I don't need to repeatedly get the file, right? I'm actually going to put an extra. You can put as many enter keys as you want. It doesn't matter. Just for fun. Okay, so I'm going to type. You guys remember what it is?
Or
FOR, parenthesis. Right, we're gonna define a new variable, and the variable is I, VAR space I, equals, and we usually start counting at
0.
0, semicolon, and just for my buddy, make sure you put a space after that.
After.
A semicolon. You don't have to. And then, so the first is, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this variable I. Now, how long am I going to do this loop? It's called a for loop. I'm going to loop this for as long as this middle part is true. So long as I is less
than whatever number you want it to be.
Yeah, how many copies of this document do you want to make? 5?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Semicolon, spacebar, then what?
The I plus.
Yeah. So it's just saying take I and then increment it. So it starts at 0, runs the code, and then it adds 1 to I. Now I is 1. Right? Parenthesis, open curly brace, and then you need a curly brace underneath the for loop. How would you make it so it says El Chupacabra 0, 1, 2, 3, 4? Anyone want to screen share? Dylan Brave?
I'll screen share.
Right. Cody's the best.
Oops, wrong one.
Just click back on your code. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to, do you notice what you're missing?
Semicolon.
No? I know that's like, what would seem to be the right answer. But do you notice when you click right there next to that open, the curly brace, that it shows you which curly brace it matches with?
Uh-huh.
So it's matching the for loop, but guess what it's not matching?
5.
Now go all the way up to the top where it says copy doc, open curly brace. Put your cursor right next to that. Move over. One more. Yeah, do you see that's red?
Yeah.
It says, I don't have a friend. So you need to put another closed curly brace at the bottom.
Very bottom?
Yep. Push enter. There you go. Do it there. Closed. There you go. See how they match?
Okay, yeah.
So you have to have like open and closed curly brace for the whole function, and then for stuff that you put inside that's like a for loop, you have to have an open and closed curly brace for that, because you're trying to trap this little chunk of code to say I'm just going to repeat this little piece of code, not the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what we wanted to do is I don't want to have 5 copies of El Chupacabra. I want to have it where it puts the version number in there. So how are you going to pull that off? Do you remember how to concatenate or put text together with variables?
Don't you, like where the title is of the ID, can't you add to the inside the parentheses?
Yep. So put your cursor after the quotation, Cody. El Chupacabra.
Okay.
Okay, now put one or right arrow. Now put plus I.
5?
I as in
Oh, I thought you said.
the variable I. It should be blue. So whatever the value of I is, what's the value of I to start with?
0.
0. And so every time it runs, no, take that off. Every time it runs, the value of I changes. Take that off. Just leave it I. It's going to automatically change for you, Cody. It's going to be great. Okay, so hit save. I'm going to do it just like you did it. Save. And so then go ahead and run it. So it says, get this file. It's like, okay, I got it. Now what do I do with it? Make a copy. And then make another copy. And then make another copy. It keeps doing it until I is 5, right? So I should, yes. You see this? I have El Chupacabra 1 and El Chupacabra 2. If you ever need like a bunch of copies of something, coding it, that's 2 lines of code, right? Well, it's a little bit more because you have to do the for loop. So what is this? 3 lines of code? You could do this. Okay, what did I do wrong? Or wrong is relative. What did I forget? You guys see my drive?
I can.
What did I forget? You guys notice the number is smashed together with the Chupacabra?
Mm-hmm.
So how would I fix that?
Quote with the space in it.
Yeah, you could do that. So I could do plus, quote, space, quote, and then plus. You gotta add them together, right? It's concatenate. It's like, I need El Chupacabra, and I need a space, and I want the version number. So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to run it. Let's see what that one looks like. I can delete these all out of my Google Drive pretty easy, so here it comes. There, you see now it has a space?
Mm-hmm.
Who starts their numbering at 0 besides JavaScript? The other ones are coming. They're coming. Just thinking about it. Let's see. There it is. Right? So how would I make it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like I really wanted?
I plus 1.
Yeah, let's try that. And don't put it in it. It's not a text string. I'm going to save it. You guys just used algebra. Can you believe it? All right, so I'm running it again. So hopefully this next one should say El Chupacabra 1. Do it. Did you see, just to make more copies, all I had to do was hit run?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I want 5 more. Do it. Is it running? Did I hit run or did I just hit save? That's running it. My computer starts to choke and go slow when I'm doing Google Hangout. Oh, I didn't do it right. All right. My friend's probably not still watching because I haven't heard him yell at me in a while. No, he's not. Okay, if I do this. Okay, if I do var j equals I plus 1 semicolon, and I put a j in there, will that one work? I'm going to try that. I'm going to run it. Yeah, there it went. I don't know why. It's because I did it in the text string. I didn't like it. I'm going to rename that. Do it. There we go. You see I got to start counting at 1?
Mm-hmm.
It should go all the way up to 5 now. So what I did is I just made a new variable. And you can call it whatever you want. I could have called it cat. I make a new variable and I say, okay, it's equal to whatever the value of I is plus 1, and it always has to end in a semicolon. So by doing it in its own line, I just it's just that. I don't know why that other one didn't work. It's the same thing. Okay, so he wants to know why I have cat, and I just put cat to make a point. I actually had J, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because when I had J plus 1 down here in my text string, for some reason it made it the number 41 instead of 5. I don't understand why adding it didn't work. So I just did it on its own line. And the reason why I did a new variable is because I don't want to change the value of I. I'm like, I want I to stay the way that it is. I just want to use it. So anyway, that should work. I'm going to go back to my recent and delete all of these. Trash it. El Chupacabra is about to be removed from my Google Drive. There we go. Did it make sense what I did?
Mm-hmm.
So you can define a variable. Like, this isn't really code. This is just like a little bit of algebra. Like, I just want to do one more. Okay, how do you feel about this?
Pretty good.
You want to do
Yeah.
another one?
Sure.
See what? Okay. Well, let's see what the third one is that I have for you, and then you can decide if you want to do it. So this one I've got is we just did it. It's got the for loop. What is this? Wait. Rename a document. Create open. Rename. Get the active document. Something is wrong with my slides. I've inserted something weird in here. It should not be rename a document. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, I got it. Okay, I'm going to try and explain this. The purpose of this is we want to change the name of the document we're looking at.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so we're going to rename a document. So what we're going to do is, in this case, we're going to use document app. That's the app we're going to use. So instead of doing it in its own script, we're going to create or open a text document. So we're going to make a text document. And then we're going to use the tools menu and go into the script editor. So we're going to write the code on the document. Now what's really handy about this is it lets you make templates. Then all people have to do is copy your doc, and they don't even know there's code there. And then we're going to make our function. We're going to call it rename. And we're going to define our variable, and we're using document app. And then I put the period in there. And I'm like, okay, multiple choice. And then what I want to do, so this is like the first line of code they use like all the time is get active document, or if it was a spreadsheet, it's get active spreadsheet. So we're like, I'd like to use the document that I'm using. And then new line of code. I made a variable, and I'm going to use the variable. So I use the variable doc, now I'm going to use it. And I want to get the name of the document. But I'm going to give that a variable name, so I named it old. So that line of code has the variable name old. Okay, and then I'm going to do the next line of code is I want to set the name of the document. So I'm going to take the doc, I'm going to set the name. And then you'll notice what I've got my text string concatenated with the variable. So I want to change it so that the grading status says graded. And that's it. Okay, ready? So Control T, new tab, docs.google.com. And you're going to make a blank document. And then I want you to name your document something. Anything you want. So, do you guys know this trick that if you, in the URL at the end, it says /edit? If you delete the edit and write COPY, that link becomes a template. So if you get that link and you copy it and then you like tweet it out or you give it to your students or you email it to your friends, it would make a copy of that document for them automatically when they click on the link. Like, you guys remember how it said, do you want to make a copy of this? Mm-hmm. That's how I did it. I just replaced the /edit with /copy. So look at this on my slides. I go to the end of the slides. Here it says /edit and a bunch of junk. Delete that. And then just type copy. And then when I push enter, it says, you want to make a copy of this? I actually don't, so I'm going to remove the /copy, put it back. That's how you do it. So this is how you can make templates. So you create a document or a spreadsheet, and then you go into the Tools menu, and you go to Script Editor. And then this should look familiar. The only difference is, if you guys go look in your Google Drive, you'll see those other scripts that we made. They're sitting in there as a script file. You see this as a script file? Mm-hmm. So those are visible. These ones are invisible. They're like attached to the document itself, kind of like the label of your shirt. They just go together. Okay? So I'm going to delete out that function. We're going to start from scratch. Okay, I type function space. I forgot what I was going to name this one, but it doesn't matter. You can name it anything you want. Just going to name it rename. That's very clever of you, Alice. Rename, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, no parameters. Open curly brace, enter, 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 close curly brace. Okay? So my first line of code is always where I say, what app am I using? What app am I using? Anyone remember? I'm going to use, because I'm making a Google Doc, I'm going to use document app. And so we just always tend to use DOC for document app and then SS for spreadsheet. Drive for drive. Put a period. And this, I use this every single time, pretty much. Get active document. Semicolon. So if you go to the second line of code, push enter, it has no idea the first line of code happened. The second line of code's like, what? So if you want to refer to the current document, you have to type DOC. Like, yeah, still talking about the current document. Like, you have to basically put that in every single line because it doesn't remember the previous line, if that makes sense. So I'm actually going to name this one VAR old equals DOC dot. So I made a variable and I'm going to use the variable. I just wanted to name it. Why did I name it old? Because I just wanted to. So when I do DOC, it says this is the document app with the current document, and on that document, what do you want to do? Do you want to add a footer? Not really. I don't know what get blob is, so ignore that. What I want to do is I want to get the name of the document. And what do I need? That
Semicolon.
semicolon. So you'll remember what the name of my document was, concentric circles assignment. So it now got that name. Now you guys are not teaching yet, but do you ever tell a student or somebody, hey, go get me that cup of water over there, or go get it, and they get it, but they don't give it to you, and you're like, you have to give it to me, right? Kids will usually do that too. So the code's like, ha, I got it, but it doesn't do anything with it. Like, if you were to run your code right now, like it would look like nothing happened. Because it got the name, but you didn't tell it what to do with the name. What do you want it to do with the name? So we're going to make a third line of code. So I want to do something to the document, right? The current document. So I type DOC, because that's what my DOC means. Like, get the active document, the current doc, dot. I'm going to set the name. Now, how did I know that? Because I've done this a few times that I've read the list. Set name lets me change the name of the document. Now, when we're done with this, I'll show you how I use it, because this is going to feel a little silly to code this. So what do I want to name the document? I want to say, I graded this document so that I know it's graded. So I put quotation, quotation, graded, quotation, right? But then the name of the document is graded, and I don't remember what the original document was, right? That's a problem. So I want to do plus, and I want the old name. That's where I have the old. Does this make sense?
Mhm.
So I'm like, you know what? I need the old name, and I'm going to concatenate that with the word. I'm going to add it together with the word graded. I'm going to put the both of them together. And then what do I better do right now or else I'm in trouble?
Semicolon.
Yeah, I should have done that before I wrote the graded plus old. Trust me, once you start like really getting into this, you're gonna like realize that semicolons are like the bane of your existence. Dang it! Forgot the semicolon! Okay, so you ready? Save it. And then click run. Authorize it.
Run.
Okay, so now you'll notice when I go back to my document, it renamed it. But what did I do wrong?
There's no space.
There's no space. So I can just put the space after the D. Or I can do the plus, quotation, space, or quotation plus, whichever way you want to do it. I did both, so now I really got trouble. So now when I save it and I run it, what's it going to do? Now what you think it's going to do? So you guys see this? Because once I renamed it, that becomes the name. So when I run the code again, it doesn't grab the original name, it grabs the current name. So if I run it again, it's just going to throw the word graded on the front again. Let's put in a few comments. So right here it says var doc equals document app dot get active document. I should say what that means. So what I do is at the end I just put in 2 lines and I'm like, this is the doc I am using. You see I just made myself a comment. This is the name of this doc. Combine the word graded with the current name. So you see I can just I put 2 slashes and then I can just kind of explain what I'm doing. And that's good practice is to comment your code so people know what it is, so that you know it. Why did I do that? Okay, so here's where you go from here. This is not a total waste of time if you don't practice it again later, because you've now coded something. You should tell people that you've coded. I've coded. That just makes you a good role model, right? Because it's important for kids. If you learn JavaScript, you can literally go get a job starting at $80,000 a year with no college degree. So let's just be honest. This is a good skill. If we can teach our students JavaScript, we're giving them a really valuable life skill. And all the time you're like, why can't I fill in the blank? No one's going to code that special use case for you. If you don't, if you know, like, I know how to do it. Like, it's so empowering. Like, all the time, like, I can do that. And I seriously know hardly anything. I've only been doing this for a year. Mm-hmm. So I encourage you to do a little bit of a JavaScript tutorial just to kind of make a little bit more of what I just said in the last hour and a half make more sense. Mm-hmm. But if you go onto my website and where it says add-ons and templates, or shortcut is alicekila.com/scripts, and you scroll down, I've got all my scripts that you can like steal and edit or just copy and paste parts of the code. Steal, steal, steal. If you scroll down even further down at the bottom, I have a bunch of template projects, like directions. So you can try those tutorials. There's also other Google Apps Scripts tutorials that you might want to try. Just Google it, right? Google Apps script tutorial. And so you're going to be able to find a bunches of people who've made tutorials. And then probably before that, I actually have a couple more projects in the slides if you want to give those a go. So if you look on number 59, slide 59, I've got a cheat sheet. Just to kind of give you a reminder. You have to have a function. Text strings go in single quotations. Join your variables with pluses. Start your code with the, what app are you using. Here's the copy and paste for the loop if you want it. So you have that cheat sheet. You should save a copy of it to your Google Drive or something. I should post it on my website. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I use the hashtag code Noob on Twitter. So if you're trying to code something and, just first of all, just share when you're being a goober. You're like, oh, I totally forgot the semicolon hashtag code Noob. I monitor the hashtag, so it would be really exciting for me to see that you're trying to code. But then also if you're like, Keeler, I added you on this document. Something's not working, and I'll just go in and tell you, that's right. It's the wrong capitalization.
Do you monitor it on TweetDeck?
Yeah, I have a column on TweetDeck for code Noob. So if you want to ask me an advanced question, I probably don't have time for that. But if you're asking me a noob question, like you're really trying to get into it, I'm going to help you. Now, I know you guys personally, so if you did have an advanced question, I'd tell you. But I can't tell my 57,000 followers. It's just too many. All right? So
Sounds good.
Keep trying. Do them over again. Send Angelica, or not Angelica, send Annalisa a bunch more emails.
Okay.
All right, night, you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.